$20 and enjoy a fish fry on Friday or a Philly sandwich and specials on any flavor of White Claw buckets. It's the Sweet 16 watch party starting at 6 p.m. on Thursday and Friday at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill.
Today on Hey Culligan, why does your team stink? Here's Coach Waters.
Hey Culligan, yeah, my team stinks.
Ooh, harsh.
No, I mean they stink. They won't hit the showers because it makes their skin all dry and itchy.
Coach, it sounds like your guys have been hit hard by hard water.
You kidding me? Hard water?
Yep, so let's call an audible in the form of one Culligan Smart High-Efficiency Water Softener to get the smooth back in their skin and the stink out of your team.
Okay, Culligan, I'm putting you in.
Coach, we're already on the way. Go to CulliganLincoln.com and schedule your free water test today.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and Bill Callahan Fan Club president, Jake Bakoven.
I love Billy.
Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach.
Hold up.
Happy Wednesday to everybody out there. This is On the Block here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bachman. He is the Husker Hall of Famer, longtime NBA vet, Eric Strickland. Strick, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. It's hump day, baby. We made it halfway through the week, so it's got a few more days to the weekend. Got some good news out there, some troubling news. It's relative, however you see it, with regards to Nebraska basketball. We're going to talk to Evan Bland when we get there in a little bit. Discuss. A lot of stuff going on. Still trying to figure out what's going on with Nebraska baseball. NCAA tournament will be popping off in another few days again. It'll be another exciting weekend. And yeah, man, it's good. I feel good. I'm excited. Ready to go. We on the block, baby.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about, like you said there. I don't know if it seems to be a lot of things seem to always pile up against Nebraska athletics. So, like you said, even the baseball team was kind of supposed to be the relief that we had and finally, get the winning going. Maybe that will come around the corner, but they've been struggling. Like you said, Evan Bland will help us dive through that here in about 25 minutes. Of course, there's big news today in the NFL with the Tyreek Hill trade. We'll get to that here in a little bit as well. But I do want to start with that Nebraska basketball news. It just landed on us at the end of our show yesterday, so we didn't get to dive too deep into it. Of course, Eduardo Andre going ahead and hitting the portal. Probably one of Nebraska's best players as far as upside was concerned going into next season. I don't know. He hasn't played basketball for too long. At times you could see when he would outmatch his opponent, and he could do that with his size, right? He was really a problem, but then you could tell he was still kind of learning the game in other facets, getting in foul trouble quite a bit, completely frozen out of the rotation at times, especially early on in the season. How big a loss do you see this for Nebraska basketball? Do you think that this is, something that hurts quite a bit, or do you think he's a guy that, maybe if Blaise Keita comes in and Derek Walker comes back, could kind of get lost there with Braden Bach and some of those other bigs? To where he just maybe wanted to go somewhere where there was going to be some clear playing time.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, right now Nebraska has 14 scholarships that they have out there. We all know that the limit is 13. I think at this point, he's weighing everything out, understanding that Walker hasn't made a decision yet, knowing that Blaise Keita is coming, Goggles is coming off of injury. I think at the end of the day, Andre is probably looking at all of those aspects of what possibly may be returning and ultimately kind of looked at it and said the writing's on the wall. I only averaged 11 minutes a game. I'm still not really getting any opportunity to produce. Once these guys come back, is there opportunity for more minutes to really be there, or are they going to continue to look over me? And so therefore, let me go and maybe see what's out there for me to get an opportunity to get on the court a little bit more. And so I think that's probably the way he's looking at it. Again, the decision with Walker not making a decision early, that kind of holds things. I mean, to be in a big man rotation is not necessarily a bad thing, but the style of play doesn't look good for a big man rotation. It looks more with Nebraska for a two-man rotation in the big man position. So I think that's what he kind of looked at from that aspect and kind of understood that his style of play, the way that he plays the game, him still being pretty raw and not getting many minutes is kind of making it tough for him to be able to stay with the Huskers.
Yeah, and again, I think there were times where he looked really good. I mean, he could throw down some dunks. He certainly helped them out with rebounding at times. I think the closest thing to a rim protection type of player that they probably had this year. So, I mean, there was some upside with it, but ultimately only averaging, like you said, not a whole lot more than 10, 11 minutes a game, about 3 points. So in that aspect, it's not a huge drop for Nebraska. But it certainly could be because, I mean, you can count all those guys that could come back and take away his minutes. Right now, it's no sure thing, obviously, with Derek Walker. He'd be 25, I believe, if he comes back. So he's got a decision to make there. Blaise Keita, from what we heard, is a maybe at this point with Matt Abdelmassih being let go or mutually parting ways with Nebraska is how they put it. So, it can kind of look a little bit crowded there. But at the same time, he might have, I mean, if those guys choose to move away, I mean, he might be primed for a lot of minutes here this upcoming season for Nebraska. So I would have rather waited, you'd feel better for a Nebraska fan if he would have waited to make that decision to know what some of those other guys are doing. But I think the other part of it too is, and I know he's, again, I think that type of player, if he could develop into what his potential says he can, I don't care what type of offense you run, and we see this in the NBA even. It might be the modern day age game of 3-pointers and all that stuff. If you have a 6'11" guy that can rim protect and get rebounds, that's still something that you can use. Like you said, maybe limited to one or two of those guys on the team now, but certainly still something that could be helpful. But I think ultimately, when you talk about Fred Hoiberg's system, is Breidenbach more of the fifth type of guy that you would probably like to see ideally for this offense, a guy that can stretch the floor, can take a guy off the dribble pretty easily. Is that, do you think, ideal for a Hoiberg's offense, or do you think either way? I mean, if you can get a big man that rim protects and rebounds, that'll work. Even though they want to shoot a lot of threes, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you still can secure it. There's still some things out there. There's some guys probably still out there. There may be somebody that jumps into the portal as well. So you probably will be able to find it. I think it's rather risky to be looking at that as an option for you down the road. That is a risky option to take, looking for a big man just to hopefully jump into the portal that can do what you really need, and that's rebound. You need rebounding. You need somebody that can run, that can finish, to do similar things that Walker did, but just be just a beast in the middle and just take care of things in the paint. And so, it's a risky proposition, but ultimately it can be done.
Well, and it is what it is too. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Like you said, it could have been something where you have kind of those post-season meetings, and he kind of felt like his position on the team wasn't where he wanted to be, or it could just be something where Hoiberg wanted him back, and he ultimately just decided for himself to go somewhere. I'll tell you this, like you said, and maybe it's changing these days with the portal. Is that there might be a little bit more height out there, but those guys get taken up pretty quickly. So I'm interested to see how long Andre will be in the portal, because a 6'11" guy, that's something a lot of people like. That's a skill you can't teach, right? Is his height. And it's kind of similar to I guess when we look at the football portal, just elite pass rushers. There's not going to be a whole lot of elite pass rushers in the portal. If they were there, they'd be gone quickly. Did you get him, Strick? You took that?
Man, I was trying. These freaking fruit flies. When you going by fruit, fruit. Somehow these freaking fruit flies find their way around, and they're just the most annoying little freaking things, man. I just get so about them damn things.
I hope you got him. It sounded like that could have been his end, but that's pretty good stuff. I also wanted to play this for you because I thought it was kind of cool, and it ultimately brings up the question as we jump into the Sweet 16 of who the best Big Ten team is this year. Because you could go with the two that won the regular season, you could go the one that won the tourney conference tournament, or you could do the two that's still left alive. But I played this not too long ago on the ticket water cooler, but it's funny enough that I could play it twice. Hunter Dickinson, the Michigan forward, had this to say about their current run through the Sweet 16.
This season was definitely, like not the best, not the way that we wanted it to, and other fans definitely let us know that, particularly Michigan State, Illinois, who else? Ohio State. Who else? Oh, there's another team in there. There's one more. The team down in Madison, the red and white team. They definitely let us know how they felt about our season. We heard those NIT chants. They were hurtful. They definitely hurt. But it's funny how they'll be watching us on Thursday back at their cribs.
There's Hunter Dickinson, the Michigan forward, taking some swings at the
Super
rest of the
troll.
Big Ten. Yeah, all those fans were teasing Michigan for not living up to top 5 standard that happened in the preseason. Also, a little note there that Michigan and Wisconsin, maybe Michigan and Ohio State. Usually, if you're talking about a red and white team up north or wherever it is for Michigan, they're usually referring to Ohio State because they don't want to say the words Ohio State. Maybe with that post-game little scrum there between Coach Juwan Howard and Greg Gard, I guess Michigan players at least don't want to say the words Wisconsin either. So maybe that rivalry's heating up a little bit.
Hey, rivalries always exist in the Big Ten. Sometimes people will find a reason to have a rival with you because they just want to beat you that bad. So, listen, I love the troll. I think it's phenomenal. They deserve the right to do so after how they played in the early stages of the tournament. So, hey, kudos to them and what they're doing right now. And I hope that they do make a run at it.
If Michigan, let's just say, because I know you're a big, you really think Purdue can get the whole way. So I guess I know your answer to probably the best team in the Big Ten is being Purdue. And I think that's probably a fair answer because they've been highly ranked this whole year, got to number 1 at one time. And now they're making the Sweet 16 run. But let's say they get knocked off and Michigan goes a little bit further than in this tournament. Would you still answer Purdue as the best team in the Big Ten this year? Because, again, it's confusing when you have Illinois and Wisconsin split the regular season title, Iowa win the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, and now Purdue and Michigan are making their Sweet 16 runs. The best team in the Big Ten, I think it just comes down to whoever you're biased against at this point because there's no definitive answer.
I really don't even see it's that. I really, truly believe that seeding, where you end up, who you match up with, and those matchups, how you fare with them, can be a determining factor as how deep you go into the tournament. Matchups mean a lot, and if you don't think it does, it does. It means a lot, and you can find yourself against a team that is a lower seeded team coming out of a small conference, but they actually match up good against you based on what you have, and that's how you can end up, getting clipped. And so I think matchups is where it comes down to, not necessarily who is the best team in the Big Ten. I think it just really does come down to how you fare and match up with the teams that you're seeded against.
Well, and of course, when it's a one-game scenario too, injuries can certainly can matter. I suppose.
We saw that with Creighton.
Yeah,
I thought that was a big determining factor as to why they didn't get by. They gave them everything they had with what they had, but not having a traditional point guard, losing Mitchell, it was tough for them as well because he was their one of their guys, their point guards, and just had to kind of use somebody that really wasn't their traditional point guard, and so they had 2 of their point guards that were out. So it was tough. It was a tough run for them.
And Wisconsin, too. I mean, they lost Chucky Hepburn there. Yeah. I don't know if Johnny Davis was ever returned to full strength after his injury against Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So, those untimely injuries can also bring you to a halt real quick. We're also going to talk plenty more stuff. Again, we'll wrap up. We'll at least look into some Husker baseball numbers here in a second before we dive into it with Evan Bland. But I did want to get to this as well. Major League Baseball is bringing back the Ghost Runner for extra innings, which is, if you don't remember the Ghost Runner, I think they've experimented with it in the past. They took it out last year, but they're going to bring it back. With the shortened season and all that stuff, they don't want these extra inning games to go too long, so they're going to start a guy once again on second base. He won't count as an earned run, but every extra inning is going to start in second base. It's kind of similar to the NFL overtime rules and stuff like that, where we have our arguments. The biggest argument for a lot of baseball purists is that's not baseball. I mean, it's a pretty big deal to earn yourself to get over to second base. I mean, that puts you in scoring position, especially with 0 outs. That's a huge deal, right? Do you like this? I know it's been done before and we've already been through it, but just kind of bringing it back. Do you like that? Because at least it will shorten the games and you won't have too many of those 18 inning games, but at the same time, I just don't know. It doesn't feel like you've earned it. You don't necessarily earn the win.
Well, it changes the strategy, obviously, because then you have bunt. You can bunt the guy with no outs. You can bunt the guy to third. You're probably going to get a run. Somebody's getting a run unless they defensively play it well or they just don't execute. And that's what it comes down to. Sometimes the bunt's not executed. It goes back to the pitcher. It goes too far. You're able to get the out. Sometimes it goes to the first baseman. And he's able to throw the guy out at third, depending on the situation. So it's going to change the dynamics of the strategy, obviously, but. I think you can test it in different places. I think you can test it in college. I think I think you're able to score more runs in college. Just obviously with the aluminum bat, that thing pops and jumps off a little bit easier, but guys are just so good at the professional level that it is tough in extra innings regardless. It's tough to score, period. So I think it does provide a different type of strategy. You got to line up differently with your outfield then, and whether do you play them in, do you play them deep, do you shift them, however things like that.
Well, they're banning
does come into play.
Now too. So they're banning shifts now too.
Right.
So baseball is going to look quite a bit different. Along with this rule, and another rule that's probably coming around is basically the Shohei Ohtani rule with the DH coming to the National League. They wanted to make sure, basically, I mean, it's kind of funny because it really, I don't think this rule would be here without Shohei Ohtani. So it's interesting. If you're an Angels fan, it kind of benefits them. Is this unfair for Major League Baseball to do this for a specific team? But I mean, it's not just for Ohtani. Anybody can take advantage of this, but it allows the pitcher to stay in the game as a DH, even if he leaves the mound. So Ohtani can, pitch for 5 innings and still DH in the 8th and 9th inning, even though he pitched that day. I mean, I guess I don't see that as any other way except for the Shohei Ohtani rule. Do you have a problem with them doing that? You keep in mind, this is baseball. They need to get eyes on him. He's one of the best young players in their sport, but it is seemingly a rule that applies to everybody, but certainly benefits the Angels more than anybody. Without a doubt.
There's gonna, I mean, obviously there's gonna be a shift, being that they're looking to change those DH rules. Give everybody an opportunity to DH. And so not having a pitcher up there, that does change the way that you select your lineups. How do you protect them? How do you cover them? What type of guys you put before him to maybe get on base and to allow him to do what he does, to get bunt opportunities. That's what they practice the majority of the time as pitchers. They practice, they do regular batting practice, but they also do a lot of bunting practice. And so I mean, I think there is a benefit for some teams like that, but I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Somebody off the text line, and remember, anybody can join in the conversation. Just hit us up on the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. Sten says you should have to start with 1 out if you're going to take the Ghost Runner option. I think that would be nice.
I think that would be fair. Yeah.
And it's obviously not in,
because then that bunt puts you at 2 outs, most likely. And then at that point, I think I would venture to say that should be the case. Yeah.
Well, if a guy is at second too, I mean, you could hit a single and round him in if he's got enough speed. And obviously, if he's your Ghost Runner, you're going to put your fastest guy out there. So it's just fascinating that you could get a run without an out, without really doing much. At that level, but of course it's the same. The next half inning, the other team's going to be able to do the same thing. So I kind of like the idea, like he said, of an option where maybe you could kind of see some, managers kind of making different decisions based on what happened. I mean, maybe if they took the Ghost Runner with 1 out and you don't get him out, would you then you'd probably want the ghost runner, because then a single can win the game at any time, as opposed to maybe not going without it. So that's kind of interesting. Also, let's get into some Husker baseball stats before we break it down with Evan Bland. Reminder, Nebraska 8-11 overall. They've lost their last 2 games. Their last outing particularly was not the most fun, but they start Big Ten play with Michigan here in just a couple of days. Friday, I believe, is the first game of weekend series. And of course, Nebraska, through all this struggle, especially with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, the 21-4 loss is what I was referring to, the latest time out. The South Dakota State game for tonight has been canceled. So Michigan's the next game up on Friday. And I think even with this losing record and all this struggle, a lot of Husker fans still have a lot of belief that they can take care of the Big Ten. And the Big Ten hasn't been very impressive for what it's worth either. So that's kind of interesting. But just going through some of the numbers too, I think, if you're wondering what the problem is, I kind of, dug into the stats a little bit. Husker baseball's troubles are basically everywhere. Their batting percentages are down from last year. They were hitting about 280. This is by the end of the season, they're hitting about 244 last time I checked here. Their opponent's batting average was 236 last year, hitting about 258 now. Last year, their runs were about 6.97 to their scores, I guess, per game were about 6.97 runs for Nebraska, 4.16 for the opponent this year. Nebraska is down to 5.05 runs per game and about 6 for the opponent. Fielding errors also playing in, 36 fielding errors last year in 48 games, 19 already thus far, not games with 27 fielding errors. So they're already pretty close to what they had last year. So it's just kind of a mixture of a lot of things gone wrong. It's not one major thing that's overloading on Nebraska, but it'll be interesting to kind of dive into it. And we'll have Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. He covers Husker baseball. Let's go ahead and get to break so we can get to him next and try to break through for Husker baseball. Maybe we can figure it out and get Nebraska baseball going in the right direction. Either way, hopefully they do. We'll talk to Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald coming up next here on The Block.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill has 2 Lincoln locations that are great for any occasion. If you're downtown for a basketball game or a concert, stop by their newest spot at 10th and P. Don't forget to check out their social media pages to learn about any concerts on stage at Rosie's. If you want to avoid a busy downtown scene, head over to the original Rosie's just south of 14th and Highway 2 for a feeling of your local hometown bar. There's plenty of TVs at both places and great food and drink. What are you waiting for? Rosie Sports Bar and Grill at 10th and P and on South 14th Street.
Southeast Community College has learning centers in Falls City, Hebron, Nebraska City, Plattsmouth, Wahoo, and York so that you can take credit and non-credit classes at a center nearby without having to travel an hour or more to campus. By taking online classes and those at a learning center, you can earn your degree from SCC where and when it's convenient for you, all at a cost that won't stand in the way of your education. Learn more about SCC's learning centers at southeast.edu/learning centers. SCC, your path to possible.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Expect mostly cloudy skies. We could even see light rain mixing with light snow throughout the day. North winds gusting 35 to 40 and only a high of 43. Mostly cloudy tonight with a low of 30. Gradually clearing tomorrow, not quite as windy, with a high of around 50. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Join 93.7 The Ticket this Thursday and Friday at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill for a Sweet 16 watch party. The McGowan's brothers will be there as well as other Husker basketball players, so come hang out with the guys. Enjoy fried chicken, steak, or pork with mashed potatoes and gravy on Thursday with Coors Light aluminum buckets for just $20. And enjoy a fish fry on Friday or a Philly sandwich and specials on any flavor of White Claw buckets. It's the Sweet 16 watch party starting at 6 p.m. on Thursday and Friday at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill.
Today on Hey Culligan, why does your team stink? Here's Coach Waters.
Hey, Culligan. Yeah, my team stinks.
Ooh, harsh.
No. I mean, they stink. They won't hit the showers because it makes their skin all dry and itchy.
Coach, it sounds like your guys have been hit hard by hard water.
You kidding me? Hard water?
Yep, so let's call an audible in the form of one Culligan Smart High-Efficiency Water Softener to get the smooth back in their skin and the stink out of your team.
Okay, Culligan, I'm putting you in.
Coach, we're already on the way. Go to CulliganLincoln.com and schedule your free water test today.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. Drive-bys is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Smoothbrook, Illinois.
You knew the risks when you decided to drive drunk. There could be a crash. People could get hurt or killed. But that didn't stop you, did it? You knew you could get arrested. You could incur huge legal expenses, and you could possibly even lose your job. You were well aware of the consequences of driving drunk. But one thing's for sure. You were wrong when you said it was no big deal. Drive sober or get pulled over. This message brought to you by NHTSA.
Another packed spring sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. Stop by for the great deals on March's Beers of the Month for Guinness, Cosmic Eye, and Firestone Walker. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. N Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street.
You hear that? That's the sound of extremely tender and delicious beef from Certified Piedmontese. Prime grade tenderness with a fraction of the fat and calories of normal beef. It's Nebraska-raised product and the official beef of Nebraska Athletics. Change the way you buy beef today at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese, just north of 84th and Havelock, or at cpmercado.com.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues, but things continue to loosen up as Koppel gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is On the Block here on 93.7 The Ticket. Happy Wednesday, everybody out there. You can see Strick vibing if you look at our streamline here, the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, which obviously can be found on YouTube or Facebook or Switch or Stitch. I always forget. I'm not
Stitch or Twitch or Niche or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Twitch.
Twitch.
Yeah, man, Twitch.
I sound older than I even am. I can't even remember all the streaming services that I don't use.
No, it's because you got slip-knotted. You got slip-knotted, and you still ain't recovered.
Yeah, my ears. We went to the Slipknot concert. My wife had no clue what that was going to be, so that was kind of fun to surprise her. But her ears were ringing for quite a bit some time afterwards. But I think we've recovered now. I can't blame it on that. I'm just not. I'm an old young man, I suppose, is what we'll go with. Let's go ahead and bring in Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, coming here on the Houghton of Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. Evan, how are you doing today?
Hey, what's going on? I like Switch or Stitch. I mean, I think that's maybe you're getting something started here.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I think we could get our own streaming service going and maybe make some money off it. I like it. How disappointed were you in the weather today? It obviously caused Nebraska not to be able to play.
I mean, yeah, it's always the risk you run in the Midwest in March. I mean, we had 70-degree days a few weeks ago, and now it's cold and sort of sleeting-ish. So, it's always something you expect when you look at the schedule every year. You say, okay, it's 56 games on the schedule. How many of those are going to get wiped out due to weather? And this is a casualty of one of those. It's probably a mixed bag, though, if you're Nebraska, where on the one hand, you really want to get rid of that taste of Sunday's blowout loss to Corpus Christi. But, I think maybe more so it's almost beneficial that these guys, after having played 7 games in 8 days, get the week to rest up for really what amounts to the biggest series of their season to this point with Michigan, because for all the struggles and the non-conference failures that Nebraska's had, it's a lot of it can be forgiven if they can win a series this weekend and compete in the league. So, at the end of the day, one game against South Dakota State, which is not a very good team, probably can hurt you more than it can help you. And as much as they want to play, I think big picture, it's really not a big deal.
If you're looking at this Michigan series, and sometimes we kind of have to reset. I know they went to the College World Series a few years ago, so you would think of one of the better baseball programs in the Big Ten. Are they expected to be that? Is this a prime contender for Nebraska atop the league?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think when you look at the Big Ten in general, it's still feeling some effects of not just the pandemic year, but the league-only year that they had. Like, you think about it, every other league, every other power league other than the Big Ten last year was playing non-conference, but more importantly, they were playing midweek games. And so when you do that, you're allowing kind of that next wave of your pitchers to get game experience, to develop. Well, the Big Ten's feeling that right now. You look around the league, there are teams everywhere that are replacing major parts of their weekend rotation. And the two notable exceptions to that are Maryland and Michigan. And it's no coincidence that those two teams, in my opinion, are the strong favorites to win the league and to qualify for the postseason. So you look what Michigan's done. They've played the hardest non-conference schedule in the league, so their record doesn't necessarily jump out at you. But, they played Vanderbilt within a run. They should have beaten Texas Tech, which was a top 15 team at the time, and lost it in the 9th. And you just kind of look at what they do well. They're not going to beat themselves. They're a strong fielding team. They score runs in bunches with a bunch of athletic hitters. And really what looked like maybe their strength going into the year from the pitching side hasn't necessarily materialized yet. So it's a team, I think, that has all the makings of being a contender along with Maryland. And so, again, if you're Nebraska and you are able to win this series, I think a lot can be sort of forgiven, and it sets up the Huskers really not unlike last year, where it's like, okay, it's a league schedule and you have to win Big Ten games to get where you want to go. But on the other hand, if they continue to struggle, if they continue to beat themselves and they get swept or don't look good at home, I think that tells you too where Nebraska stands in the pecking order as they get into Big Ten play.
So, Evan, it's always good to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today on The Block. Listen, wanted to just get your thoughts and your perspective on Husker football and how you feel about the return. Did they return with some energy that you're hearing about? What are some names that are popping out at you? What are some of the things that the coaching staff are saying about certain players that are kind of raising their eyebrows about? Obviously, we're hearing the same thing about some of them, and just some of the things that they're doing in the spring in preparation for the spring game that's bringing some life to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're kind of at that point in spring ball where you've got the headliners sort of out of the way, so to speak. I mean, we talked to the quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. That was really interesting. We've heard from, a number of the high-profile defenders. And so coming off of that spring break week, it's always interesting to see kind of who comes out and talks and what you learn. And I thought yesterday's media availability was interesting because it was a number of guys that we haven't spoken with much. I mean, Phelan Stanford was there. He was a special teams guy who was their special teams player of the year last year, who tested really highly in their performance index training. And so we got his perspective on what Bill Busch has meant to the special teams room. We heard from guys like Brian Buschini, the transfer punter, who by all accounts has really been impressive and will be an upgrade for them in that area. We heard from guys like Alante Brown, who was a highly recruited kid a couple years ago and just hasn't necessarily found that role yet, but it sounds like maybe he's trending in that direction a little bit more now. So a lot of it's hearing from guys like that. A lot of it is sort of, reading between the lines about things that might change. I'm always interested to hear from some of the new coaches, and Mickey Joseph in the receiver room is always a fascinating guy to listen to. And he laid out how he challenged his guys to catch 5,000 passes in the off season and what that kind of did to set the tone for that room, which includes a lot of new guys too. So, I think it's a lot of stuff like that. It's always interesting, I think, too, to talk with guys who've now been around for a while. I enjoyed chatting with Omar Manning, the receiver, who in some ways still kind of feels like a new guy. I mean, it feels kind of like yesterday that he was the highly touted JUCO prospect that Nebraska brought in. But he said earlier this week, he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of one of the old guys in the room now. I feel like an old guy. I want to pass on that experience to some of the next group of guys that come in. So I think you're seeing some of that too, where, guys that have moved on to the league or have graduated, they've left a leadership void, and seeing who fills those spots moving forward is always interesting. So I think that's part of where we are right now in this, this spring timeline.
Evan, two-part question as well. Some of the things that I found that was interesting that I've been hearing out of the staff, out of just some of the notes that's been coming out of the program during spring, is that guys are really taking on leadership roles. So that was one of the things we've been talking about here on the block is who's going to step up and how are they going to create the culture that is needed and necessary, being that more responsibility is being transitioned to the coaching staff, to those rooms, and to those players, more responsibilities of taking onus of their specific positions. And I hear that they're finding that. Is that the same thing that you're hearing? And also, who at Pro Day for you did you think made some of the most impact, the biggest impacts that they had at Pro Day?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the second one first. It was interesting. It's always interesting to go to Pro Day and see what guys can do. And in this case, Nebraska had 4 guys who already competed at the combine who didn't necessarily need to go all out. Guys like Austin Allen and Cam Jurgens and Cam Taylor-Britt and so on, and JoJo Doman. But to me, it was kind of that next wave of guys who, this was their chance, right? They weren't invited to the combine. They didn't get that stage. And so what can they do when you have, in this case, 28 NFL teams show up and, have their stopwatches and have their evaluators there taking notes. And so I was impressed with Deontay Williams did a good job. It's kind of funny. We think of him as an old guy. I mean, he's still only in his mid-20s. And then he did a good job on his 40 time, showed some explosiveness. I'll tell you what, I was impressed with Damian Daniels. I mean, the defensive lineman who has been the nose tackle for Nebraska for a couple of years, looked as slim as I've ever seen him. And he said he weighed in at 302. That was as small as he's been since his sophomore year in high school, he said. I mean, he was 330 for his first couple of years at Nebraska. So you see some of these guys who have really reshaped their bodies and locked in on what they want to do at the next step. So I think those were, a couple of guys who were pretty impressive. And, obviously you wish the best for those guys with the draft coming up next month. To your other question about leadership, though, it's kind of interesting. I think there's sort of a 2-pronged thing going on. I mean, there's always been the side of it where the guys who have been reserves or backups sort of slide into that next role. I think about the defensive back room quite a bit, where you lose 3 starters, but Travis Fisher, the assistant coach there, has set such a standard in that room that these other guys who are rising to the top levels already know what to expect. And so, Fisher said it earlier this month. He's like, I don't have to do all that much work because these guys know the expectation. So, guys like, I think Marquise Buford down the line can be a big leader. Miles Farmer this year is somebody who's probably going to step into a bigger role. Quentin Newsome certainly is a returning starter. So I think you see that's part of it, is you see these players who have been here sort of ascend naturally. But the other part, and this has come on because of the transfer portal, is sort of this free agent element, that you see in the NFL, where a guy signs somewhere and becomes a leader. I mean, that's sort of what we see in college football now. And the obvious example would be Casey Thompson at quarterback. I mean, he's obviously ingratiated himself with his line by taking them out to dinner the way he did a couple months ago. He keeps his receivers after practice and they run routes together. So I think there's that other side of it too, where, if you're a guy who's coming in here out of the portal, you don't have the luxury of waiting around for a couple of years. I mean, you have to come in and do it now. So I think they have a good mix of guys who have been here and then some of the other transfers who have come in that are going to take charge right away.
And of course, it's interesting when you mention the NIL and Thompson, you kind of think of that. And then today, Adidas announces kind of a deal that they're doing with all their schools, where basically all the athletes are going to get some sort of NIL deal. Do you expect to see that from the Nikes and the Under Armours, and maybe Adidas is just out here in front, or do you think this is an advantage Nebraska and the Adidas schools might have?
Well, I mean, it's a copycat world, right? Like, if somebody does something that works, somebody else is going to do it too. So yeah, if this thing takes off for Adidas, then there's no reason why Nike or Under Armour or whoever else won't step up and do something too. I mean, this is the new arms race in college sports, right? Forever it was facilities, and before that it was fan bases and things like that, and it's NIL now. How can you find that edge? How can you generate that revenue that's going to make a top recruit consider your school? Because it's so hard to find a lot of separations between schools if you're visiting around some of the top programs. I mean, everybody has nice facilities. Everybody has television exposure. Everybody has at least decent academics. And so if you can separate yourself by providing another opportunity to make some money, in this case through being sort of an influencer with Adidas, then yeah, at least in the short term, that's something that you would think would help Nebraska out and other Adidas schools. And what's interesting to me is not just maybe the football side, but how does that bleed over into some of the other sports? I mean, to me, basketball is a natural sport where somebody could really step in and be an influencer, with your shoes or with your sneakers, and maybe some other sports as well. So just seeing the impact, I think even beyond football, will be fascinating.
Yeah, it sure will. And one last question for you as we go to the national landscape. Every other day, it seems like there's an absolute bomb in the NFL being dropped. And today, it was Tyreek Hill being traded away from the Chiefs to the Dolphins. A lot of people looking at what that does for the Dolphins. Or do you think that maybe this could take away, and at least a little bit from the Chiefs, certainly, but do you still see them as a one of the top, 2-3 Super Bowl contenders, even without Tyreek Hill?
As a Broncos fan, unfortunately, yes, I do still see the Chiefs as a Super Bowl contender. To me, and I I'm not too terribly in depth on this, but to me that signals sort of that transition for the Chiefs from Patrick Mahomes as that rookie-friendly contract over into a bigger cap hit. I mean, you recall the huge deal he signed a couple years ago, and you see it all the time in the NFL. Is your contender windows are at their widest when your best players are on rookie deals and you're able to spread that cap room elsewhere. I think this is an example of the Chiefs acknowledging, like, at some point you can't pay everybody. So, Hill, his stock is high. They were able to get a first-round pick and some other draft capital back for him. Obviously, you still have Mahomes and a lot of other playmakers in that room, and so you have to kind of give up something at some point, and as much as it probably hurts that organization, and certainly as much as it hurts the fans who have grown to love that connection between Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, the organization feels like in the long run this is something that'll end up keeping them competitive. So again, if you realize as a franchise that you can't pay the man, then you might as well get something in return and try to keep building as long as you have Patrick Mahomes in his prime.
Yeah, it is fascinating. We'll see. I mean, they were able to recover with when they had to get rid of Kareem Hunt. So we'll see if they could do the same here with Tyreek Hill. But that'll wrap it up with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald this week. Evan, thanks for your time and insight today.
Thanks as always, guys.
All right, there he goes. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it is time for our Shootout with Strick segment. Your chance to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. All you have to do is beat Strick in our little game show here. Today it is going to be a little bit based on some of those NFL teams that were involved in the trade today, Chiefs and Dolphins. So if you're a Dolphins fan, if you're a Chiefs fan, or if you just like the NFL, or it really doesn't matter. Again, sometimes you don't have to know too much. It's a either or questions mostly, one open-ended question, but that one you can just take a guess at, and you have a chance to beat Strick. We had, I can't remember his name, but we had the yesterday Strick went down. So Strick's looking for some revenge. It's Strick's Revenge Tour coming up next year. Give us a call, 402-464-5685. First one to do so can jump in line and have their chance to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. That's next here on The Block.
This is Dan Friedman. Between 2010 and 2019, distracted driving caused more than 40,000 car crashes in Nebraska, resulting in over 14,000 severe injuries and deaths. Please keep your eyes on the road. If you have a smartphone, put it away while you're behind the wheel. It will help keep our community safe and secure. This message is brought to you by Friedman Law Offices, helping injured people. It's what we do. It's all we do. Find us at friedmanlaw.com today.
Another packed spring sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. Stop by for the great deals on March's Beers of the Month for Guinness, Cosmic Eye, and Firestone Walker. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. N Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street.
An Empire Fence is an investment in your home. This year, use your tax return to make that investment. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and security while improving the appearance of your home. Visit empire-fence.com to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home. With your tax return on the way, schedule your project now. Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence.
Have you ever wanted to build a catapult? Have you ever wanted to launch something other than water balloons with a water balloon launcher? Do you want to be a national champion? Then you need to get a team and sign up for the National Avocado Launching Championship, May 21st in North Platte. That's right, the National Avocado Launching Championship is taking place right here in Nebraska. Launch avocados for fame and glory. Sign up at avocadolaunching.com. That is avocadolaunching.com. And remember, the top prize is $5,000.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill has 2 Lincoln locations that are great for any occasion. If you're downtown for a basketball game or a concert, stop by their newest spot at 10th and P. Don't forget to check out their social media pages to learn about any concerts on stage at Rosie's. If you want to avoid a busy downtown scene, head over to the original Rosie's just south of 14th and Highway 2 for a feeling of your local hometown bar. There's plenty of TVs at both places and great food and drink. What are you waiting for? Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill at 10th and P and on South 14th Street.
Husker fans, don't miss your chance to get a first look at this year's Nebraska football team at Memorial Stadium. The annual Husker football red and white spring game is set for Saturday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Tickets are on sale now for only $10. To secure your tickets today or for more information, visit huskers.com/tickets or call 402-472-3111.
Work, laundry, dishes. I was exhausted. I needed a vacation, but finding a way to pay for it, not so easy. Then I found it, a research study at Solarion. I searched the studies and found a perfect match for me. It was so easy. I earned cash for the study and booked that vacation. Plus, I made an impact on medical research. Find a study and sign up today at helpresearch.com.
You should consider the risks of the research before you agree to participate.
It's time to play Shootout with Strick. Call now, 464-5685, to take your shot against Eric Strickland. Shootout with Strick. Brought to you by Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Time to play the game!
It is time for your chance to win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings. It is Shootout with Strick here on the block. Every day we give out a winner. We're looking for winners. Sometimes even if Strick wins, then the third caller wins. So we're going to give out some chicken regardless. But Strick likes to win too, and he's got a pretty good shot. He's ready for Shootout with Strick. We have Hayden on out of Lincoln Hotline. Hayden, are you a Dolphins fan or a Chiefs fan or just an NFL football fan?
I am not.
You are not. Well, that doesn't really matter. You can just
not a Chiefs fan being in Nebraska. What?
All right. We'll let Strick go first, and then you'll know what total you have to get to. Strick, are you ready?
Let's go. I'm ready.
All right.
Ready? Shoot, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Which quarterback replaced Tua last season? Jacoby Brissett or Josh Rosen?
Brissett.
That's correct. True or false? Tyreek Hill is now the highest paid receiver in the NFL.
False.
That's actually true. Who was the Dolphins' leading receiver last year, Mike Gesicki or Jalen Waddle?
Gesicki.
It's actually Waddle. Who had the most rushing yards for the Chiefs last season, Darrell Williams or Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Helaire.
It was actually Williams. And how many wins did the Chiefs have in the regular season last year?
12.
That is correct. So the money ball is on, and you get 3 total points. You really needed that money ball well before the buzzer sounds as it goes there. 3 points for Strick, and good job on the money ball there. Now let's
That's some
go.
bull crap, man. You gave me crazy questions.
Yeah, those were some difficult questions. We'll see if Hayden can catch your score at 3 or even surpass that. Hayden, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, we'll go in 3, 2, 1. Who was the Chiefs' backup quarterback last? Oh, I didn't even hit that. Pretend you didn't hear that. I hit the wrong button. All right, 3, 2, 1. Who was the Chiefs' backup quarterback last season? Chad Henne or Nick Mullins?
Nick Mullins.
It was actually Henne. True or false? The Chiefs were the 1 seed heading into the AFC playoffs.
False.
That is true. That was the Titans. Who was the Chiefs? All right, you're right. Who was the Chiefs' leading receiver last season? Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill?
Kelce.
It was actually Hill. Who led the Dolphins in total tackles last season? Christian Wilkins or Jerome Baker?
Baker.
That's correct. And how many wins did the Dolphins have in the regular season last year?
4.
It was actually 9. If you would have got that, you would have been correct, and you would have walked away with the chicken. But instead, you finished with 2 points, making Strick the winner with 3. Sorry, I was fumbling over my questions there a little bit. Either way, Hayden, don't give up. Because Strick wins, caller number 3 will win the chicken. Hayden, that includes you if you were caller number 3. So go ahead and hang up now. And caller number 3, 402-464-5685, can win $15 to Buffalo Wings and Rings on behalf of Strick, who gets his shout-outs today before the victory.
Boom shakalaka!
Flawless victory.
Well, you were sweating it there a little bit.
I was a little sweating there, man.
Yeah.
I was like, them questions were tough.
Yeah, I couldn't. I really confused myself when it was like he said false, and then I said true because it's true that it was false. And I was like, oh wait, that's not the right wording. That's very confusing.
It was.
So I'm sure it didn't help them there. How about the tiebreaker? Which round was Tyreek Hill drafted in?
3rd.
It was actually the 5th round. He had some problems coming out of college, so he dropped quite a bit to the 5th round, but pretty good
That's
5th round.
Huge 5th round draft pick, boy.
Yeah. I guess in the long term, if you look at it that way, they won some Super Bowls with him. They turned a 5th round draft pick.
His contract is more than Devontae's?
I think so. I think that was part of the whole deal is that Devontae forced his way. It's basically whoever's the latest, right? I mean, when you're at that level, they're both could argue to be the best or the best weapon at the receiver position in the league. It's basically who's ever the latest. So I saw somebody even pointing out that the Raiders, by signing Devontae, even scared Tyreek Hill or scared the Chiefs away from Tyreek Hill. So they did an even greater thing than just signing Devontae is now that they made Tariq ask for more. Now he's out of the AFC West.
Yeah. Hey, listen, is more games being played. It's very strategic, those top level, not just on the field when you're putting your strategy together. It's those top level in the war rooms that are going on as well. And then there's those ones where you're throwing out stuff similar to Deshaun Watson. I'm not interested in the Cleveland Browns. Oh, yeah, I'm going to the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, come on, man. There's all kinds of games being played.
Do you see OBJ's interested in the Browns again?
Why would he not?
Yeah, now Deshaun Watson's there.
I mean, I don't think it wasn't an issue that he didn't like it with the Browns. I think he was. I think he was just kind of befuddled by Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, they could that connection would not work out, but now that Deshaun's there, yeah, maybe I can play. I am interested in this too because I've seen this as some kind of blowback for the NFL as well. It's not the best look that Deshaun Watson and Tyreek Hill are the guys cashing in on all this money. They've had their off the field problems. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's more recent than Tyreek Hill's, but that does kind of put these people in a bind a little bit. I guess because I've seen some Browns fans are jumping ship. They don't believe that they can cheer for Deshaun Watson. I wonder if there's any of that going on with the Dolphins. I know a lot of Dolphins fans are celebrating. I don't know how many Dolphins fans are going to rush out to get a Tyreek Hill jersey.
I mean, I come from, I think in some ways our systems can be broken, right? I'm not going to I'm not jumping on that far side of thinking that everything is, in this chasm of racism and all that stuff. That's not my court. But I am saying that sometimes the system is backwards, right? He's been absolved of all charges. That means they didn't feel that they had enough evidence to go forward in the trial. That absolves him of that. Anybody can sue anybody, right? Listen, I'm going to be transparent. It's happened to me where people have put false allegations out there, and the system was right. I was not charged, and they still tried to sue me, right? And obviously there was decisions made. It was a small amount we gave it. My attorney was like, hey, do this and just absolve it. We can fight, we can win, but then it just puts you in this whole light. And he's just like, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so I can say just from personal experience, it's happened to me, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is not guilty, but I am saying that that's the thing about the system, is that people can put stuff out there. It hits the media, and so you're tried in the court of public opinion, and then all of a sudden, then your name is tainted. So I'm not going to say that in Deshaun, he's absolved of any guilt of anything. Maybe he did do some things. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't in the massage parlor, so I'm not going to say that. But I will say that, that's a tough thing to do when you just jump ship because somebody spewed some stuff out there. Maybe it's the number that causes people. Maybe if it was only 3 people as opposed to 22, maybe it was 10. I don't know, but I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon yet and say, the man is a total turd.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue those things, and I hate to break to you, but there's also been times where the system doesn't get it right either.
Facts.
It's been found out later. So
facts.
Even when we do kind of lay it out as facts because somebody's put in prison or something like that, that's not necessarily mean that's what happened either. So it's always something kind of a tough deal to work with there.
Yeah, it really is. And there's no right or wrong in it, I don't think. I mean, it's very nuanced. It's very nuanced. So, we'll never know the full answer.
Yeah, but we will take a break. We'll be back here on the block in just around the corner once we start the 5 o'clock hour. We got plenty coming to you there. Again, Adidas seems to be stepping up their game. How much is that going to help Nebraska? We kind of follow this Husker Online poll as well that says it's cool to be a Husker fan. So things are coming up red for Nebraska, coming up cool for the Adidas and Nebraska recently. Also, once we get to hitting the hardwood, let's talk about an interesting conversation to have. Yusuf Nurkic has fined $40,000 for throwing a heckler's phone. Wait till you hear what the heckler was saying to him, and you might kind of have a different opinion on that as well. That's coming up next year on the block on 93.7 The Ticket.
An Empire Fence is an investment in your home. This year, use your tax return to make that investment. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and security while improving the appearance of your home. Visit empire-fence.com to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home. With your tax return on the way, schedule your project now. Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence.
Southeast Community College has learning centers in Falls City, Hebron, Nebraska City, Plattsmouth, Wahoo, and York so that you can take credit and non-credit classes at a center nearby without having to travel an hour or more to campus. By taking online classes and those at a learning center, you can earn your degree from SEC where and when it's convenient for you, all at a cost that won't stand in the way of your education. Learn more about SCC's learning centers at southeast.edu/learning centers. SCC, your path to possible.
Today on Hey Culligan, unnecessary contaminants. Here's the referee.
Hey Culligan, that's a flag on my water for flagrant foul taste.
Ooh, that's a tough one, ref, but the solution is a Culligan Smart RO drinking water system that reduces up to 58 contaminants, making your water safer and delicious.
Yeah, I guess I missed that call.
And with the Culligan Connect app, you always know when your filters need changing.
The water's up and it's good.
Good call, ref, and we're already on the way.
Try a Culligan water softener for just $9.95 per month. Go to CulliganLincoln.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues, but things continue to loosen up as Koppel gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric ensures our home and office HVAC systems run smoothly throughout the year to provide maximum comfort and convenience. Routine maintenance reduced our operating costs just by improving the efficiency of our unit. Consider a maintenance agreement to ensure you too receive priority for services and scheduling. This helps meet manufacturer warranty requirements. Action delivers honest quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 330 North 48th Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Hey, sports fans. Rico here with HIS Auto Care 70th and Van Dorn. Carfax recently awarded us as a top-rated auto service center for 2020, and Lincoln Choice Awards voted us as the 2021 top independent auto repair center. Call us at 402-488-8934 for superior service bumper to bumper. Mention this ad and get 7% off. Doesn't get any better than that. Rico for his Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harris Nars. In boys soccer on Monday, Lincoln East won over Lincoln Southwest 2-1. Lincoln North Star won over Grand Island 2-1. Lincoln Northeast dominated Bellevue East in a shutout with 7 different scores, winning it 7-0. Lincoln Southeast coasted to a win over Norfolk 4-1. In Waverly, got a win over Blair 4-1. Carson Bretlinger from Waverly had 2 goals. For the girls, Kearney won over Lincoln Northeast 4-1. Lincoln Lutheran edged out a win against Omaha Concordia 2-1. Last year's leading scorer for Lincoln Lutheran, Sierra Springs, had 2 goals in the second half to bring her team to a win. Lincoln Pius swept Fremont 4-0. Abby Vodchek would score 2 goals in only 4 seconds of the game, the fastest goal scored in school history. And Norris put together a dominant game beating Beatrice 10-0. Kennedy Sullivan would put together a hat trick. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
Husker fans, don't miss your chance to get a first look at this year's Nebraska football team at Memorial Stadium. The annual Husker football red and white spring game is set for Saturday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Tickets are on sale now for only $10. To secure your tickets today or for more information, visit huskers.com/tickets or call 402-472-3111.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Quick play for 3. And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
93.7 The Ticket veteran and Creed stan Jake Bakoven.
I love that band, Creed.
Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This is On the Block with Strick and Bach. Hold up.
We're back on the block for the second hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Also on Twitch. You can find us on all social media platforms, Spotify. see what happens?
Yeah,
Spotify. You see that? Okay. Spotify and all. The one I tried to kill, Spot That Fly.
Yeah.
And also right here, if you're watching us on Facebook as well as on YouTube, we thank you. Hit that subscribe button, tap in whenever you find us on the block right here from 4 to 6 Central Standard Time Also, you can text us on the Sauter Heyman text line at 402-464-5685. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear what you feel. We also want to know what you think. So, Bach, we have some great news that's coming out of the USFL marketplace. There's some rule changes that is looking to make the game kind of interesting, and I thought it was kind of interesting as well. So we find that when the USFL takes the field on their first game being the Birmingham Stallions, Corona, and the New Jersey Generals of the USFL have their inaugural seasons jump off on Saturday, April 16th at 6:30. They'll be playing a different style of football, but it would be the same football game with a different twist on it. So some of the rules have come out, and you'll have the same traditions that are familiar to football fans right now, but you'll also have some changes that'll be made. And I found those changes to be quite interesting. League is instituting some changes that will bolster the offense, big play potential, improve the game flow, and giving trailing teams an opportunity to be able to come back when they're down. That's something that was very interesting to me. It'll enhance player safety, and it'll give the officiating the opportunity to make the right call and make it fair for both teams. So thinking about that, how do you feel about some of those changes and some of the interesting ones that are going to give it a little twist in the game?
Well, I think first of all, for the USFL and similar to the XFL, I think it is wise to do this, to critique this a little bit, because I think that it's tough to get this spring football league going either way. But if it's just the same product with lesser players and lesser brands, then I think that's an uphill battle that you're going against. So at least get something for people to tune into and see what it works with, because the NFL has already talked about, specifically with the XFL, not so much the USFL, is maybe adopting some of these things down the line and seeing how they work out, and maybe at least experimenting with them at the XFL level. So kind of a similar thing with the USFL. There's no direct deal between the NFL, but I'm sure if something really works for the USFL, they'll take a look at it. I'm just fascinated by the 3-point attempt. Of course, traditionally you're able to go for 1 or 2 after the touchdown. You can get the extra point. The 3-point attempt would be from the 10-yard line. If you can get into the end zone from there, you obviously just get 1 attempt to do so. Like you said, that makes games a little more interesting when you can, it kind of changes the math. I was always really good with the multiplication tables of 7. I got that quicker than any of those other ones when I was in 4th grade or 3rd grade, whatever it was, because I had followed football and I kind of knew the football scores. This is going to make it change it quite a bit. And I don't know how often I'd go for 2 if you can go for 3. I know it's a lot more difficult, but even sometimes more room. A little bit more room might even help you out. The offense, you have a few more yards to game, and now the defense has to cover more of the field. It could change the way that they, guard against that too. So I like the fact that it keeps the game open. But I suppose with that, I don't know if I'd like to see that go to the NFL or college football. It's similar to the 4-point line, in the Big 3 tournament, rather than, I like it where it's at. I don't know if I want to see that in the NBA or college, just because it takes away from the original game and would really just change the dynamic of it. And I know they went through that with the 3-point line originally, and NFL and in college football, they've put all these rules in to kind of help the offense and the scoring and all that. I see more of that in play here. I think it provides an entertaining aspect and a reason to tune in more so than just a spring league.
The one that I really found that was quite interesting, and I love how, because when you tend to be watching an NFL game, right, there are times in the game where it's a two possession game, where the time and the clock is running. So the ability that they're taking on the college part of it, where under 2 minutes that they're basically stopping the clock so that's giving them more possessions, more opportunities to be able before halftime, as well as at the end of the game, to be able to put something together. It changes the strategy a little bit. It also defensively keeps you on guard, because you just can't guard the out routes, and you can't guard the deep. You can't just run a 3 deep 4 quarters and just kind of keep guys from going to the eyes. You could throw that ball up the seam and get a stoppage. So those things are pretty cool, I thought. But the one that I really found interesting is, just say you're down by 3 scores, you end up scoring 1, and you have the option to take the onside kick or versus a scrimmage play. I thought that was pretty cool. So teams, in essence, will have two options to be able to retain a possession after scoring. So this can happen at any time. It doesn't have to happen at the end of the game. You can say, I want to put the pressure on you before half. I'm going to, but there's a risk to it. And that's
take it type of situation, right?
Yeah, right. So the first option is the traditional method in which, that gives you an opportunity from the 25-yard line, which puts some risk at it. If you don't get it, you can pretty much dead. But the second one was interesting to me, where they give you a fourth down play with 12 yards to go at the 33-yard line. And you can do that at any time. So if the team makes the first down, they retain the possession. That's the one that I thought would give a team that's trailing an alternative way to be able to keep the ball after scoring. I thought that provides an exciting aspect of the game as well, and also minimizes the risk, of sometimes how the onside kicks can go. They're very rare also to so it gives you another option there, but it gives you a definite risk reward strategy for coaches.
Well, it's kind of funny too, because you're thinking at that point in time, that you're trying to basically, the risk is pretty high, because you're thinking, I want to keep the ball and I keep scoring, and put pressure on this team. Whereas if you give it up, if you don't get it at the 33, obviously they get the ball. Basically, they're going to get a field goal or so out of it, and then they're going to get their attempt. They could turn that into not just a touchdown, but then if they go ahead and do the same exact thing to you and get that first down, your mistake of going for it for 4th and 12 instead of the onside kick could lead to multiple possessions and multiple possessions worth of points for the opposing team. So it's kind of fascinating to see how that goes. I wonder over the years if they were to do this, you'd have to see the percentages, play the percentages. We don't have any percentages on it, right? With the 12-yard conversion, we don't know what that would be at this point until they play some games. But the analytics and how that would change things, because we've seen that in college football, where Oregon so often was going for 2 rather than 1, just because they thought the analytics would lead them to higher scoring games. And sometimes it did against Nebraska, particularly. It didn't a few years ago. Now you're seeing the analytics kind of play for the NFL football teams, where they get even at their own 44-yard line or whatever. A lot of guys are more worth it to go for 4th and 1, than they had in the past to play, just try to, keep away or try to win the field position battle. I wonder if the analytics would go so far as to say, go ahead and just go for it on 4th and 12 after you score every time. That would be quite entertaining, but it would change again, that's the part of that maybe is a little bit dangerous, as it kind of could change the way, if you do have a mismatch, right? And then one team just has 800 yards of total offense by the end of the game, and the other team has like 200, or maybe not even 200, like 150, but their defense wasn't on the field all that often. I could see that playing out maybe in a game or two, but most often than not, I think it's a big enough risk that it makes it so that it's not an option that's going to be chosen often unless you're making a comeback.
Yeah, and then you're going to be able to also, Bach, you're going to be able to throw some trickery in there too, right? Whereas in the NFL, you can't have two passes that are behind the line of scrimmage, whereas here they're going to allow that. And I think that's pretty cool. That's going to open up the playbooks like crazy in different situations, that you're going to be able to throw some trickery out there. You find yourself at the 45-yard line going, about to cross over the 50, and then you throw a trickery play out there that just blows everybody's mind. I think it could be pretty fun. But they're going to need to do something to spruce it up, being that they're having every game there at Birmingham. So they're trying to figure out ways to spruce the game up a little bit. I also like the defensive pass interference rules, how that's set up. And it also gives the opportunity for not on field, but up top or out in Birmingham to be able to wherever the Fox studios are. I think it's either there in California. It's one of the two. But they're going to be able to make the calls in the booth as opposed to on the field. So it's going to create a faster game, because those calls are going to come from them, or they're going to be called in from them as opposed to on the field. You get one option to throw the challenge flag, and I think it's going to keep the game rolling. It's going to keep it pretty flowing. Yeah. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it.
I think that's smart, because I think you're less incentivized to stick around for a USFL game. They're taking forever on replays.
Right.
But I think that's especially something that I hope out of all of this moves on to the NFL and in college football, is that I've always wondered why we hold on, and maybe it's just the way that it's always been, but the referees on the field, we act like those guys should have all the power in the world. And so even if we go to, replay, we shouldn't go to a guy back in New York that can just look at a few replays and get it done real quick. We need to have those officials look through all the same thing. I always thought that was kind of silly. Just have a replay official designated for that game, so he's part of the crew. You don't have to worry about bias. It'll be the same thing, but it's so obvious to the viewer a lot of times after you see a replay or two, and they stick around and look at every angle from 2 or 3 minutes, and it has to be the guys on the field making the play or making the call. I always thought that was kind of silly, and that they should have somebody, working back in an office that can look at all the views and make the right calls and get the game moving on quickly. And like you're saying, for the pass interference, it's like college. It's not going to be the pros where it's, if they throw a bomb and you have pass interference, and they're going to, it's a 15-yard penalty or a spot ball if it's, underneath that 15 yards. I always kind of like that. It kind of, the only way I don't like that is when cornerbacks absolutely take advantage of it and tackle the guy.
But that's the rule. So if that does happen, that extends the 15 yards. So that's the ruling. Yeah, that's part of the rule. So if that happens, as you just said it, they trip, they tackle, then it becomes an extended to wherever the foul was created. So and that can also come from the top if it's missed. So I thought that was pretty cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of stuff to kind of look for, and the overtime's the biggest problem. Whether you talk about college or pro, people dislike the ways that they're doing it. College, of course, has kind of gone to the 2-point conversions that are needed. We saw that in the Penn State-Illinois game. I think after the 3rd overtime now, so they can try to make it so you don't get to 8 overtimes or whatever. Still, Illinois and Penn State were just matching whatever each other did. And it did get to like an 8 overtime affair. Of course, the NFL is just in a whole mess with their overtimes, and games can end in a tie. And obviously in the playoffs, you're having Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen's in different years not being able to touch the ball in overtime. So I kind of like their overtime ruling. I don't know if it's the best. It's kind of like, is it the best of 3 overtime rule where they get the ball, I believe, at the 2 and then just have like 3 different attempts to add up as much points as they can, and both teams will get it. That's kind of weird. I don't know if that's, again, that's kind of same when we were talking about baseball earlier. Once you start to kind of get pulled too far away from the game itself, and situations that would come up during the 3rd quarter, at any time, then I don't know if that's the way that we should be deciding it, but I think it could be entertaining.
Yeah. Then moving on, let's talk a little bit about what happened down in KC, just about 3 hours drive from Omaha, Nebraska. You find the KC Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, did have Tyreek Hill on the trade block. But we found that at the end of the day, it was just like you had Cuba Gooding Jr. and you had Tom Cruise, and he's singing the song. He saw Devontae Adams land a bag out there in Las Vegas for the Raiders, and all of a sudden, he said, "Show me the money." And he basically got the deal done. He is no longer a Kansas City Chief. He will be going to the Miami Dolphins. That is a big land for them. A guy who is capable of blowing the top off of safeties and corners and leaving major room in the middle for Chad Kelsey to work is no longer the option for them. Now he is going to be getting balls from the left-handed gunner of Tagovailoa. And so the deal was this. Miami gets Tyreek Hill, a top blower, and Kansas City receives the 2022 first-round pick of the 29th, 2022 second-round pick of the 50th, and the 22 fourth-round pick, and the 4th and 6th picks in the 2023 draft. How do you view that deal, and how do you grade that deal between the Kansas City Royals and Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins? Who wins the deal, and how do you grade it out?
Well, it is a haul of picks for the Chiefs. So, I mean, if you're looking what they're aiming to do, I know a lot of people would see the Dolphins just blew them away, right? I mean,
122 mil, 72 of it is guaranteed in the bag. Soon as he opens up the checkbook, 72 mil.
Yeah, but the Chiefs aren't paying that anymore. So that's kind of what they're thinking. And I understand it because of the Patrick Mahomes deal that he signed a couple years ago. It was going to be hard to keep all those stars there. So the idea with that deal, and it was apparent when he signed it, was that you might be able to keep a guy around, maybe one of these weapons, but a lot of this is going to be through the next 10 years, which is the length of that deal. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes and whatever you can work with the salary cap around him to plug players in there. So it's kind of interesting. Certain times you hear quarterbacks say, well, I was frustrated the franchise couldn't get me this or couldn't get me those weapons.
Yeah, you took all the money.
A lot of these, with the deals a lot of these quarterbacks are signing now, it's really making it difficult to build a team around them. And I obviously the Chiefs still have some good weaponry there. Travis Kelce might be the best tight end of all time, but I even think he diminishes a little bit without this. Now teams can double cover him, look more to him as the one true threat that they're worried about. And like you said, it kind of takes the deep threat out of it. They still got, some speed out there. They still got some other guys, but they're not Tyreek
still
Hill.
Can get over the top. Yeah.
Right. But he's not
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Right.
Tyreek Hill's the cheetah. He's the fastest player in the league. He's already on the all-decade team from the previous decade. He's only 28 years old. He's got a lot out in front of him.
Yeah.
And normally, too, I would say, maybe that the Dolphins are putting the money into the wrong position. They already got a stud wide receiver that they just got in Jalen Waddle in a
that's a great duel
rookie deal. But yeah, that's a great duel. A duo there.
He caught 104 passes last year.
Oh yeah, he's not. He's no joke. I think it definitely helps him out. And normally I would say though, watch what you're doing with the wide receiver position because that usually doesn't translate to wins. It translates to a lot of fantasy points. It translates to a lot of yards for that wide receiver, but it rarely translates to wins. And you can kind of see that throughout the history of the NFL. This last year, Cooper Kupp might have turned that on that idea on his head, though, because he did everything. He led the league in receptions and yards and touchdowns, and then took his teams to the Super Bowl and won. So it translated there, and maybe it is starting to translate a little bit more with the running game having a diminished role over the years. The NFL putting more, making it more friendly to have kind of a passing attack and offensive yards and all that. Maybe the wide receiver position is more important than we had thought in the past.
Yeah, I think it is a transition that is happening out there. What do you think? How do you guys view it? Who won the grade of that deal, or who won the deal of the day? Was it Kansas City, or do you think the Miami Dolphins wins out in that deal? Texas at the 402-464-5685. We'd love to hear from you about it. Also, you can call us on the Honda Lincoln hotline at the same number, 402-464-5685. We're on the block. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit more about, there was a poll that was done by Husker Online, and it talks about how high school players as well as coaches feel about the Husker football program. We'll come back and talk about it when we get back after this on the block.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harrison Ars. In boys soccer on Monday, Lincoln East won over Lincoln Southwest 2-1. Lincoln North Star won over Grand Island 2-1. Lincoln Northeast dominated Bellevue East in a shutout with 7 different scores, winning it 7-0. Lincoln Southeast coasted to a win over Norfolk 4-1. In Waverly, got a win over Blair 4-1. Carson Bretlinger from Waverly had 2 goals. For the girls, Kearney won over Lincoln Northeast 4-1. Lincoln Lutheran edged out a win against Omaha Concordia 2-1. Last year's leading scorer from Lincoln Lutheran, Sierra Springs, had 2 goals in the second half to bring her team to a win. Lincoln Pius swept Fremont 4-0. Abby Vocek would score 2 goals in only 4 seconds of the game, the fastest goal scored in school history. And Norris put together a dominant game beating Beatrice 10-0. Kennedy Sullivan would put together a hat trick. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
Have you ever wanted to build a catapult? Have you ever wanted to launch something other than water balloons with a water balloon launcher? Do you want to be a national champion? Then you need to get a team and sign up for the National Avocado Launching Championship, May 21st in North Platte. That's right, the National Avocado Launching Championship is taking place right here in Nebraska. Intel. Launch avocados for fame and glory. Sign up at avocadolaunching.com. That is avocadolaunching.com. And remember, the top prize is $5,000.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by Security First Bank. A relationship you can count on.
Expect mostly cloudy skies. We could even see light rain mixing with light snow throughout the day. North winds gusting 35 to 40 and only a high of 43. Mostly cloudy tonight with a low of 30. Gradually clearing tomorrow, not quite as windy, with a high of around 50. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Tune in to the Teammates Mentoring Hour each Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on 93.7 The Ticket. Hear stories from the program started by Tom and Nancy Osborne and how it's changed mentors and mentees' lives and how you can be involved. The Teammates Mentoring Hour, Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 o'clock on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
At Buffalo Wings and Rings, they've crafted a new league of superior chicken sandwiches. Meet the Ringers. It's premium, house-made, beer-battered, fried chicken served buffalo, Korean, or MVP style. Head to Buffalo Wings and Rings Lincoln and raise a glass to superior chicken. 2 locations at 68th and O and at 40th and Old Cheney. Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Today on Hey Culligan, unnecessary contaminants. Here's the referee.
Hey, Culligan, that's a flag on my water for flagrant foul taste.
Ooh, that's a tough one, ref, but the solution is a Culligan Smart RO drinking water system that reduces up to 58 contaminants, making your water safer and delicious.
Yeah, I guess I missed that call.
And with the Culligan Connect app, you always know when your filters need changing.
The water's up, and it's good.
Good call, ref, and we're already on the way.
Try a Culligan water softener for just $9.95 per month. Go to CulliganLincoln.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues, but things continue to loosen up as Koppel gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Husker fans, don't miss your chance to get a first look at this year's Nebraska football team at Memorial Stadium. The annual Husker football red and white spring game is set for Saturday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Tickets are on sale now for only $10. To secure your tickets today or for more information, visit huskers.com/tickets or call 402-472-3111.
This is your High School Minute.
With your Southeast Community College High School Minute, I'm Harrison Ars. In boys soccer on Monday, Lincoln East won over Lincoln Southwest 2-1. Lincoln North Star won over Grand Island 2-1. Lincoln Northeast dominated Bellevue East in a shutout with 7 different scores, winning it 7-0. Lincoln Southeast coasted to a win over Norfolk 4-1. In Waverly got a win over Blair 4-1. Carson Bretlinger from Waverly had 2 goals. For the girls, Kearney won over Lincoln Northeast 4-1. Lincoln Lutheran edged out a win against Omaha Concordia 2-1. Last year's leading scorer from Lincoln Lutheran, Sierra Springs, had 2 goals in the second half to bring her team to a win. Lincoln Pius swept Fremont 4-0. Abby Vodchek would score 2 goals in only 4 seconds of the game, the fastest goal scored in school history. And Norris put together a dominant game beating Beatrice 10-0. Kennedy Sullivan would put together a hat trick. This has been your High School Minute, sponsored by Southeast Community College, with locations in Lincoln, Beatrice, and Milford. Learn more today at southeast.edu.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back on the block. E. Strick here, and my partner Jake Bakovin. He likes bread.
That's right.
And Slipknot.
I hate it so much, but yeah, and Slipknot.
Yeah.
Wide
and what else? A wide variety.
Yes.
So we had Husker Online that basically put together an anonymous poll that kind of questions some high school coaches, players, 22 coaches, 136 players across Nebraska and Council Bluffs, Iowa. And they filled out these questionnaires, and the questions varied. There were different questions that talked about and asked questions about, who did they like growing up? Who did they feel got the most out of their programs? How many games have they been to? So there was just a wide range of questions that was asked in this questionnaire. But one of the ones that we found that was quite interesting was the poll stated that Husker high school football players from Lincoln and Omaha area are still Husker fans to the tune of about 63%. I find that to be pretty interesting. And that's one of the things, Bach, that we talked about many a times on here is how do kids that are growing up in a new age and where they haven't seen the history, they haven't seen the success that Nebraska football has had, I think since probably 2012, 13 range, when they were, when they were basically in they haven't had much success in the Big 10, but they've had some success in the Big 12. But how do people view that? And it's very interesting that a lot of people still feel that they're Husker fans and have an interest. And then that begs the question, how are the coaching staffs recruiting the kids that actually love being Huskers and they're not really reaching out? Or what is the dynamic there that most of the kids are not finding their way into a Husker uniform?
Yeah, it is fascinating. I guess for what it's worth, when you put, they went out there and tried to get the feedback from more than 100 guys. I wonder how many of those guys are like, Division I type athletes, because of course it can be different if you had that sort of interest. But it is still a good sign. I think it is something that I worry about with the younger kids as they're coming up through high school now. The last couple of years, there's been a few recruiting cycles, I suppose, under Scott Frost, where he hasn't done the best of keeping everybody in state. Other times where he's done very well, but there's this last one, for example, there's guys committing to Auburn and all these different Kansas State, all these different places, and you got a few of them. But it used to be where Nebraska would lock in the border. They'd get anybody. And of course you would, because you were going to go play in the Big 8 championship game, basically, to go play for the Orange Bowl and national championship game. Like, you knew what the future of the success was going to be. And if you made it at Nebraska, you were among the best in the nation. Now, obviously, that's not the case. So I've been worried, especially like you said, with the new age as well, the ability just to follow any team you really want to. I mean, you can't necessarily, living in Nebraska, go to the game at Oregon, who seems to be the second most liked team for some reason. You can't just go to any Oregon game every other week, but you can go to their website and go, watch all their highlight tape and all that stuff. You can catch any game from just about any team all across the nation if you dig out the time, that time of the day for you to watch it. So I was a little bit worried and am a little bit worried that Nebraska kids are going to be less interested in the Huskers. So this was very relieving to me. I don't know what the number probably would have been back in the 90s or, kind of how it's changed. Maybe if they've done this poll over years and years, we'd be able to see that. But I still think, the tune is 63% being Husker fans. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and that is pretty good. I mean, that was actually a surprising number for me. I didn't expect it to be that high, but again, you're coming up in families where the mom and dad, they know, so the mom and dad had been around, so yeah, they still kind of hanging there. They're still having tailgate parties. They're still going down and hanging out with friends. Of course, you're bringing the kids. They're still going down and or going to the local spot. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bar. You can go to nice little restaurants, your DJ's dugouts and different places all across the city that have these nice little places where you can take a family and have a meal and still have the game on throughout the city. And you're having these types of games where you're watching it and you're getting a chance to see it. And so you still are a fan. You're still supporting because you still love your state. You're still excited about you still want the state and the state's team. Basically, the best thing that's happening in Nebraska is you're supporting it to have success. And so there's a lot of view of that still being kids have a heart for the place that they are. And, wherever they still may go I'll forever be bleed red. I was born in Auburn, I was basically in Opelika in Auburn, Auburn, like next door. I was always a War Eagle. I was Charles Barkley. I was Bo Jackson. That was what it was. And everybody's like, Strick, how come you never went to Auburn? What is that about? I was like, man, listen, I bleed red. I was actually, my adolescence of watching grew up in Nebraska. And so I'll forever, no matter how bad they get, even though I may throw stuff at the TV, even though I may curse people out, you didn't get to see it, Bach. You didn't get to see me in studio when I was there with DP last year, how Basically it was like a schizophrenic kid that was going nuts and needed a straitjacket in there watching some of those games, and then all of a sudden, then I got to go on the radio and be calm and collective, knowing I really wanted to throw some verbiage out there that didn't sound very good on TV or on the radio. So yeah.
Well, that's passion, though. That's what you're looking for, and to your point too, I think that's what's probably keeping this alive is, like you said, those parents, and just that kind of the whole idea of growing up in Nebraska. It's an event to go to Nebraska football. Back in the day, I remember
Eater runs up.
Right, Eater runs gets
or
around
Valentino's,
that whole experience. But I remember back in the day, like going on message boards and be able to argue with Alabama or at the time, I guess, Florida State, USC fans, Oklahoma fans about whose program's better, and this is why Nebraska is. Now it's tough to do that. You can't really do that. But I still think that Nebraska can argue for the best fan base in college football, because I'm not just talking about the sellout streak. I'm talking about the fact that whether it's 90,000 people or 87,000 people or 82,000 people or 77,000 people, I don't care. When you're up that when you're that high of amount of people getting into a ball game where your team's 3-8, that's crazy. You just don't see that across the nation, and it didn't take a whole lot. There weren't too many times that Nebraska football got you going too much at home. There's a lot of close games, so I guess it was kind of fun. But even like that Northwestern game, just one of the best experiences that I've been to at a football game. And that was not, those were two bottom of the barrel Big West 10 West teams. It should not have had that sort of environment. And while we're on it, I do want to bring this up because I played a little bit earlier. Here's what Jim Harbaugh had to say about the environment at Nebraska when his team came to play with Michigan.
That was insane.
Yeah.
What an atmosphere. That game day experience in Memorial was off the chain, as the young people say.
So there you have it. Jim Harbaugh even enjoying it. He even mentioned up the light show that they did. The Michigan team tried to use that to their advantage and kind of get hyped up for it. I guess it ended up working. We all remember that game. A later hit by Aiden Hutchinson than probably needed to be. The whistle should have been blown. But Adrian Martinez ends up fumbling, and the rest is history. Nebraska, of course, lost that game in that fashion. Probably would have lost it in some other way because that's how they found a way to do it. But I know a lot of fans don't feel too good about that either way. But it is cool with this type of poll to see that the young people are still interested in Nebraska. And then you kind of think about the red carpet experience that they threw out there last year, because in this article too, it mentioned, there are players out there. They kind of polled them how many games had they been to, and some players they don't have the money to go to the games when they're growing up. So things like the red carpet experience that can help maybe people that generally don't have the money to get to a Husker game go and do that. I mean, that's how you grow the Husker fan base, the young kids into liking it, aside from winning, which hopefully which helps the most, and hopefully that comes around the corner too.
Well, that was a great quote by Harbaugh, and you've got to understand that how much weight that carries. The reason being is Harbaugh, he's not only been a professional and played in multiple atmospheres, he's been a professional coach.
Yeah.
And coached in crazier atmospheres. And for him to say that, I don't think it was fluff. I don't think it was just throwing it out there just to throw it out there. I actually thought he believed that just by the way he said it. And so for someone of his stature and where he's been and what he's seen to have said that, that's kudos to the Nebraska fans and the program and the environment that they provide, not only for their fans, but also for their players.
Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was it.
Oh, yeah. I'm done too.
With that in mind, we're going to hit the hardwood coming back off the break. Talk a little bit about Nurkic. And I've got some questions about that. That's why I want to give it a little bit more time. We're going to take a break because I want to talk a little bit about this. I have some thoughts on my head. We'll be back on the block.
Fruitcakes are just for Christmas, right? Gosh, I feel sorry for you. I mean, what if we had done that with bacon? Bacon is only for breakfast. We'd never have bacon cheeseburgers. We'd never be able to save a salad by adding bacon bits. We'd never have Brinner. That's breakfast for dinner. Don't limit yourself. Fruitcakes for St. Patrick's Day. Fruitcakes for graduation. Fruitcakes for Thursday. Beatrice Bakery and Grandma's Fruitcakes are perfect for every occasion. Check them out in downtown Beatrice or online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC. And things have obviously been pretty challenging lately with new vehicles, with all the microchip and supply chain issues. But things continue to loosen up as Koppel gets more and more new vehicles in each and every week. We've had many customers also custom order their vehicles. So if you don't see what you want in our current inventory, we can put an order in to get exactly what you want. So go online, reserve your new vehicle at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, sports fans. Rico here with HIS Auto Care 70th and Van Dorn. Carfax recently awarded us as a top-rated auto service center for 2020, and Lincoln Choice Awards voted us as the 2021 top independent auto repair center. Call us at 402-488-8934 for superior service bumper to bumper. Mention this ad and get 7% off. Doesn't get any better than that. Rico for his Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Do you know the common signs of transmission trouble?
Your engine revs before falling into gear, shifting is rough, or you're leaking reddish-brown fluid.
Knowing the signs could mean repair instead of replace.
That's where we come in. We're certified transmission.
The job done right at the right price.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Expect mostly cloudy skies. We could even see light rain mixing with light snow throughout the day. North winds gusting 35 to 40 and only a high of 43. Mostly cloudy tonight with a low of 30. Gradually clearing tomorrow, not quite as windy, with a high of around 50. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Today on Hey Culligan, unnecessary contaminants. Here's the referee.
Hey, Culligan, that's a flag on my water for flagrant foul taste.
Ooh, that's a tough one, ref, but the solution is a Culligan Smart RO drinking water system that reduces up to 58 contaminants, making your water safer and delicious.
Yeah, I guess I missed that call.
And with the Culligan Connect app, you always know when your filters need changing.
The water's up and it's good.
Good call, ref, and we're already on the way.
Try a Culligan water softener for just $9.95 per month. Go to CulliganLincoln.com.
Husker fans, don't miss your chance to get a first look at this year's Nebraska football team at Memorial Stadium. The annual Husker football red and white spring game is set for Saturday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Tickets are on sale now for only $10. To secure your tickets today or for more information, visit huskers.com/tickets or call 402-472-3111.
Back to On the Block with Strick and Bach on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It is time for hitting the hardwood here on the block as we go through
because the block is hot.
Because the block is hot is why. And it's our daily NBA segment. And there's always plenty to talk about in the NBA. And I think this will lead to a bigger discussion. But I did want to start off with, it's a few days old now, but now we know the fine that's out there. For Jusuf Nurkic, the Bosnian Beast has been fined $15,000 with an altercation.
Are you sure?
Which obviously,
it was
a big
more than that
for the NBA.
40,000.
40,000. That's right. Yeah, that's right. 40,000. That's what I was trying to compare it to. The 15,000 was for like George Hill in a scrap that he got with some of the other players. So on the court, if you fight other NBA players, that's like 15,000. But if you throw a fan's phone, that's 40,000 that he was fined for.
It had to be an iPhone 25. Yeah,
yeah.
So it was the newest, the one that they even came out yet. So you're getting charged not only for the attacking of the fan, but also the throwing of it. And it happened to be iPhone 25 that wasn't on the market yet. So you're getting charged for that too.
Well, and I understand that they've got to be pretty serious about not going into the stands or engaging with fans and especially touching the property. But this is the problem when you let the fans basically hover over the court. There's video of it. He didn't not threaten the fan so much as just take his phone and toss it, because the fan reportedly, as it came out later, the heckler reportedly was talking trash about Nurkic's mom as well as his grandma, who recently passed away from COVID-19, even using the B word in there about some of his relatives. So I understand that there's certain rules for the NBA players, and the hecklers can sit there and think that they can't be touched and whatnot. But at a certain point, I guess I cheer for Jusuf, Nurkic in this case. I know you're not supposed to let hecklers get in your mind or your head, and you're not supposed to, engage with them or touch them or anything. But once it gets kind of personal and you're talking about a relative, especially a relative that has passed away, I mean, I don't know how much lower it can get. So I think that fan's lucky because on the streets, as they would say, Nurkic would have taken care of that business a little bit differently.
Yeah, and so when I look at that, right, that's one of the things that I kind of just really was trying to break down in my head. And I remembered, I think I mentioned it to you a little bit ago, because it just really dawned on me that what's really going on in the NBA right now? Is this something that's uniquely different, because, or is it just a bunch of Ralph Tresvants out there, meaning they're men with sensitivity? You know what I mean? There was a song by Ralph Tresvant that said, do you need a man with sensitivity? Is that what's going on, or is it just basically a situation where this is it's media driven now? You're seeing it a lot more. Everybody's got cameras on. These interactions normally just don't happen. They're very rare. And so now our players just more sensitive these days. You have the Russell Westbrook situation where he came and addressed the player, a fan, face to face. You have Kevin Durant basically telling him, shut the F up and sit down. Now, I got to be honest. I think that even in my day, we talked to fans, but we mostly just ignored them. They're just, so what? That was just part of the deal. If that would have been the Antlers back in Nebraska days and the way that they acted at Missouri games and the crass stuff they said, we would have lost every game when we played Missouri, because they were really crash. But I'm like, is the NBA a bunch of soy boys? Just really sensitive, really touchy. You can't touch them. Everything's a fun. I mean, that's kind of what's popping in my head. They hear everything. Yes, that's some crash stuff to say. To talk about somebody's mom, or spit. If you do stuff like that, I can justify, jumping out there and jumping on somebody. I even almost went into the stands one time, so I get it. But that was just kind of the question that I thought about. Is this just a media thing now that everybody's social media? It's everything's on Snap. Everything is a pop up. Or is it just something that just guys are just really more sensitive these days?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a combination of both, right? I mean, I think that obviously we see everything. If anything's going on at all, there's about 300 cameras up taking a video of what's going on so that they can get all the hits on their social media. But I think it's part of that too, where it might be just the generation of basketball players, because it is. I don't know if it at least seems like it's changed more so today, is that it's hard to follow like what warrants a technical foul and what doesn't. Because like back in the day, you couldn't complain to the referees as much. Like it's like almost expected now if you get a foul called on you to complain to Adam for 5 seseconds. Everybody in the league does it just about, and it. I know it turns a lot of people away from the game, it also is just like when does the line cross? Why shouldn't there be some respect, or shouldn't there be like when you blow a call or miss a call, and a player's looking at you and talking to you, shouldn't that like mean something? Because it takes away from the times when they do blow a call and they're arguing with them. You don't know, because the players aren't being honest whatsoever. They're always just saying, why me? Why did this happen to me? And LeBron's kind of been the leader of that, is that he'll go ahead and complain about every whistle that ever happened to him.
For me, this enhances my GOAT debate as to why Michael Jordan, for me, is hands down the GOAT compared to LeBron James. LeBron James, on multiple occasions, I want to say at least 3 now, maybe 4, has had fans kicked out of the game for talking. about how garbage he is or whatever the case. I don't know what they're saying, but obviously people around are saying it's nothing racial. It's nothing of that nature. It's just them basically heckling him. Michael Jordan would look at you. He might say something. He might wink at you. He might say, okay, all right. And then he might point at you, or he might bang on you 2 or 3 times down, hit about 5 more buckets on you, run down the court and just hit you a little nod. You know, and so he would dictate that on the court. Whereas, you know, these cats are going, LeBron going and getting people kicked out of the game. Him, get him out of there. For me, that's, you know, that loses it for me. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, and I usually stick up for hecklers to a point because I think that's part of the game and that's fun, and you know, as long as you're kind of being at least respectable to a degree, but like, you know, you're a heckler, so you know it's not complete just you're the greatest or a bunch of respect, but there's a line of crossing there, and it gets really personal. And you hate to see that stuff, and especially unless like the whole crowd chanting or like a player on the court that crosses the line, you know, then they can take care of it there. But if it's just a guy that brought a front row ticket that thinks he's untouchable because he knows that, you know, the NBA would really come down and he'd sue everybody and all that stuff, it takes away from you know, the gift that's given to you, especially in basketball. You know, in football, you know, you're right behind the benches and all that stuff. But in basketball, you're like on the court. And I mean, you can be right on the court, right up against the action. The guys could be diving into you or jumping into you and all that stuff. And so, you know, I think too many people think that that's something that can't be taken away. But I mean, I think if you have too many ugly events, on the sidelines, that might be something that eventually is taken away from, you know, the basketball experience. And I just hate to say it. That being said, too, I do think that there was, you know, maybe in the 80s, in the 70s, I think a lot of it does have to do with the you know, the fact that everybody's got a cell phone and everything's kind of blown up. Because I've at least heard stories that, you know, guys going into the crowd wasn't necessarily like they'd do that and then they'd go back and play the second half. Like it wasn't as big a deal as it is.
You fight and come back and still play.
Right. Yeah. So it was just definitely a different era because that's hard to imagine nowadays.
Yeah. And another thing that popped in my head is what stadiums are the worst stadiums to play in? Not just also in basketball, but in football, right? There are some stadiums that as a fan, you wearing your gear to support the team that you're going to support could turn into something jumping off in the stands possibly. And I've heard that to happen on many occasions where fans will go in and play the Philadelphia Eagles and it's a horrid environment. You know, fans going to play sometimes in Chicago. When, you know, fans having those experiences where they're literally getting it cracking just outside after a game is over. You know, things like that are happening in different arenas. We don't hear about that, but we hear about what's going on with the fans. Just do what you like, but the players are getting all the smoke. So those are the things also that kind of throw me off. And same things, and there's arenas that are kind of crash. You know, Philly was one, Detroit was one. Sometimes Boston could be kind of shady. But yeah, there's some terrible arenas that you go and play in.
Yeah, it can happen. You kind of got to prepare for it while you're on the road there. The other NBA story I wanted to get to, and maybe not so much of a surprise here, but I know that I think that at least you probably played with his dad, but Ron Harper Jr. declaring for the NBA draft. Based on what you've seen from him, I mean, he's bigger than his dad. Based on what you've seen on him from Rutgers, do you think that he's a guy that can make it?
I think he needs to lose weight. I think he has trouble right now getting it off. I think with his size in time, I think he'll probably have a G League run. I think there's some areas of his game he still needs to tighten up a little bit. He definitely needs to lose some weight. He's not as shifty in this game of the day with so much freedom of movement. You got to probably have a little bit of shift to yourself in order to make it happen.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. You know, I've obviously been looking at all the mock drafts, trying to find out where Bryce McCown's was projected and all these times. I haven't seen a whole lot of Ron Harper Jr. there. But for what it's worth, he's projected, I suppose, as a second-round pick His honorable mention, All-American, second team All-Big Ten this past year with 15.8 points and 6 rebounds for the Scarlet Knights. So he'll definitely go down as one of their better players in years, but it's going to be hard to live up to his dad. It was a really good NBA player for that a long time there, with the Lakers and the Bulls and all those teams that he played for. But that'll wrap it up for this edition of Hitting the Hardwood and this edition of On the Block. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, and it'll be an exciting day tomorrow. We'll prepare you for those Sweet 16 games. College basketball's back, baby. But coming up next, it is Rico is actually going to be in for Ticket Weeknights coming up next.
You hear that? That's the